perspective on the importance of work in progress. Is it just out of interest, has anyone here already got a handle on that? That part of the business? Oh, fantastic. Yep. Yeah. And who helped you with that, if you don't mind me asking?
The business has been running 28 years, based in Sydney, so over years they've just got their head around things and put spreadsheets together with their accountants and so forth.
Okay, yeah. And so what's your role in the business?
I'm a Queensland manager, run the business up here.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. I'm just going to get us to the next section. Okay, so we're going to break at 11ish for smoko, morning tea, for 15 minutes. But before we do, we're going to go through the next section on the wheel, which is leadership. So really important. And just quickly, what we're going to cover on this is developing your leadership attributes. Working on versus in your business, because ultimately whether or not that happens is going to depend on the guy or the people that are running the show, so the leaders of the business. And then also look at identifying your dollar productive tasks, because ultimately leadership comes down to how you spend your time. And if you look at people that are running a successful business, I'm sure you'll all agree how they spend their time is different, right, to someone that's struggling and doing all the hard yards. You don't see a guy that's got a business running like a well-oiled machine. You see him on site hammering nails. Doesn't happen, right? It's not going to happen that way. So, quite simply, this whole section of the wheel is all about personal development. So, who here has done a bit of personal development work and can sort of explain what it entails? Anyone? Yep.
It's a lot of it's time management.
Yep.
How you manage time, and also how you manage people as well.
Yep. Definitely.
Your points of contact that you have with clients or subjects or even your staff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's going to make a difference.
Huge. Yeah, the bottom line is you'll only ever achieve a level of success equivalent to the size person you've become. And the best way for me to explain that, or best example to really illustrate that, and this ties in with what you're saying, these different attributes that leaders have, right? Time management, one of them. Financial management would be another one, relationship skills, that sort of thing. The best example is lotto winners. You all heard of the statistics around people that win the lotto. 75% of them within 5 years end up back where they were financially. That's a fair percentage, right? And that's including people that have won more than 25 million bucks. So within 5 years, bang. Some people find that hard to believe, but we all know people. You probably know some people personally. If you gave them 25 million bucks, it'll quickly go through their fingers. And there's countless examples. All right, Mark Tyson, even Michael Jackson. I think Tyson lost 500 million, spent it. You know what I mean? How do you do that? So it's because he didn't have the financial savvy to hold on to the money. You know what I mean? So it's the same with relationships. Some people don't have the relationship skills to hold on to relationships or to nurture and develop them. So personal development is all about your own personal development that's relevant to you, because we've all got different skill sets that we're born with and strengths and weaknesses. So some people are naturally good at the relationship thing, or maybe understanding numbers or whatever it is. So it's about you having the self-awareness to know what that is for yourself, and then correcting that and doing something about it. Okay, so I'm still, like I said earlier, totally gobsmacked at the number of people who will, for example, say to me, Kurt, we've done this ad, all right, for our business. Could you critique it for us, please? So I'll look at it, And then I'll ask them, say, look, before you created this ad, did you go anywhere to source some information on how to write an ad? Because there's free information online. You can just Google how to write a compelling ad that's gonna get people to respond. Or there's books out there, or there's seminars. There's no excuse for not having access to the information, because we're living in the information age, right? And more often than not, they'll say no. And I just don't get it. So if there's something you need to improve or find out about, it's there. And that's about being resourceful, right? And these other people, the flip side of that, are very resourceful. They'll go and find out and get a whole range of things, and then bang, make a decision and do something. So it's about what's for you. So there's an individual thing. What I want you guys to think about is, what are the top 3 attributes that you are aware of that you most need to improve within yourself? Okay, just jot those down now. 30 seconds. So is it time management, financial, marketing, sales, relationships? And then I won't get you to think about how you can improve them right now. Just jot them down, and then your goal will be to go out and find something to do that'll improve it. Okay, so you all got 3. The other component to leadership is the working on versus in your business. Okay, so you speak to most guys out there. It's been a bit of a difficult time up here, not for everyone. I mean, I know guys that are having record years in terms of volume of work and profitability, but probably 8 out of 10 you speak to, it's been quite tough, difficult, challenging. Now, ultimately, you can either, and a lot of the conversation around why it's tough tends to then lead to government, right? Economy, what's happening, Europe, Greece, blah, blah, and then finger pointing as well. So, and you see with a lot of what's in the media, it's about what's the government going to do, okay? So now, as a business owner, a small business owner, you've got one of 2 choices, right? You can either sit back, right, which is probably the 80%, and wait for these guys to make decisions and to initiate change that is going to help your business improve, all right? Or you can forget about the things that are outside of your sphere of control, because there's things outside of your control and within your control, and then the things within your control, you can start doing something about it so that you create your own boom, if you like, because there's guys that are doing that, okay? Now, obviously you guys are in the room here, so you fit into that category of people that are open to, what's a better way? How can I work smarter, and what can I do to improve my situation? Because you're obviously you don't have enough faith in the external environment to do that for you. And you don't have control over that. Okay, so you're just at the mercy of, if it's boom times, you're doing well. If it's not, you're suffering, okay? The only way that's going to happen, working on your business, who wants to explain on versus in? What's the difference there if you're working on your business versus in your business?
Getting your business to work better is working on your business. Working in your business is just doing it day-to-day, mundane stuff, makes it tick over.
Yeah, if you're in it, you're getting the work, pricing it, and then doing it, versus business development, creating some systems. So analysing, strategizing, and developing systems in each of those areas. Now, the only way, if you're going to do that, it's going to require time, right? The only way it's going to happen is if you devote time to it. And this is where time management comes in as a big component of the leadership thing. Because there's only 4 ways you can spend your time. Now, most people are blissfully unaware of this and are just reactive, going through the day-to-day, reacting to whatever comes in front of them. Once you take control, and if you look around you at people that are highly successful in business and otherwise, their time becomes the most important thing. All right? It may sound cliche, but your time is far more valuable than money, because you can spend it and make it like that. But once you spend time, it's gone. Okay, you'll never get that time back again. And we don't like to think of it as a species, but your time is finite. You only have so many minutes left, and then it's game over. Okay, so how you spend is crucial. And when you do decide, okay, I'm taking my business in that direction, and you've got a game plan and a strategy, it becomes even more apparent how little time you have to get it all done. And it puts more pressure on you, but it's a good thing. It's just increasing your awareness, right? And then forces you to become more resourceful and make better use of your time, be more efficient, think of better systems, work smarter, as well as working hard, right? Okay, so the first way to spend your time is doing stuff that's not urgent and not important. We call that distraction. And in this day and age, okay, right now, the single most powerful thing you can do to improve your time management and your efficiency and getting stuff done is to eliminate distraction. Because we have more distractions coming at us now in terms of email and having email on phones and apps and everything, and marketing messages each and every day, that distractions it's the biggest killer, okay? Productivity killer. And here's a reality check on that, right? If you're working on something and some tasks require concentration, right? You're going to a depth of concentration. If someone walks in and interrupts you, even say, hey, you want a cup of coffee? 19 minutes, you lose. Bang. Okay? So the most powerful thing you can do is switch email, phone off for chunks of time. Block out, whether it's 50-minute chunks or 90-minute chunks, and then just get stuff done. So they've done the research on CEOs, Fortune 500 companies. The average productivity per day per CEO, the guy getting the most was on 50 million a year, 28 minutes a day of productive time. Okay, so it's all about firstly eliminating that, then making sure you don't spend time on stuff that's urgent but not important. So this is when you're busy the whole day and at the end of it you feel like you've achieved nothing. Okay, that's a reactive day. The opposite is doing stuff that's urgent and important, so you flat out finish a day and you feel like you've done 3 days work. Okay, that sense of achievement. Usually the day before you go on holiday. Okay, you've got to get stuff done, 27 things, bang. And not urgent but important. Well, what's an example of something in your business that's not urgent but it's important? Planning strategies. It's not urgent. You don't do it today. It's not everything's not going to come crashing down. But it's these little decisions that you make and then follow through on consistently over time that then make a massive difference. Okay, it has a compound effect. Right, so in line with this, what I want you guys to do next is really think about how you spend your time. So an average week for you, if you've got a sheet of paper, just write the days of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday if you do Saturdays, and then how many hours do you generally spend working each of those days? So for some of you it might be, it's easy, it's 5 days, 10 hours a day, whoop, and then 50. But maybe you have a half day Thursday or Wednesday, you go play golf or you do something. Just generally, a week, how many hours per day, and then tally it up. Let's get that quickly. Once you've done that, I'll get you to just think about the top 6 or 8, what we call dollar productive tasks. So what are the things that you do or that bring in, that are directly related to bringing in cash flow and money, and or if you don't do them, will bring in money. So for example, getting a quote in on time, okay, or scheduling, planning. What happens if you don't do it, it's going to cost you money. If you don't do it well, if you drop the ball, 10 grand, bang. Or you don't get that invoice out, for example, for the next progress payment, it's going to affect the cash flow. If you don't get that quote in on Wednesday afternoon when you promised the person, you're going to lose credibility, not get the job, or risk losing the job. So just write out the 8 or 10 things that are your dollar productive tasks that you perform, and then look at how many hours roughly you spend on each of those tasks per week, okay? Because what I want you to do is, once you've listed your 6 or 8 dollar productive tasks, and then looked at maybe you spend 5 hours a week quoting or whatever it is, and you've added it up, how does that compare to your weekly number of hours? So I'll get you to stop there. So what I want you to do now, is anyone here who already does use a to-do list, right? Every single day without fail. I mean every day. Okay, because that's impressive, man. If you've trained yourself to do that, it's rare. Because we've all used the to-do list, right? But if you do it every single day without fail, it is, put it this way, if you're not doing it and then you start doing it, you'll see your productivity go through the roof. And there's not a successful person out there, I mean the real, the Bransons and the Trumps, that don't swear by it. Okay, and it might take you 6 months to really train yourself to do it every day, and then the next thing is to prioritize it. Okay, narrow it down to the top 6 things, and then do the most difficult thing first. And also every week to plan your weeks ahead, every single week. And block out time. You want to block out time to perform those dollar productive tasks. And that is a skill development thing in and of itself, all this time management stuff. Because how many times does your day plan out, like unfold exactly the way you planned? All right, very rarely, if ever, maybe once or twice a year, all just the stars align and it's all perfect, right? Synchronicity, but most of the times, no. So you've got to then, if you've blocked out time to perform these dollar productive things and some guy breaks his leg or there's an emergency and you get pulled away, you've got to then very quickly be able to make decisions on what do I still do? There's 4 things, they're all dollar productive, I can only do 1 now. Which one do I choose and what happens to those other 3 and do I fit them in tomorrow and how does that affect tomorrow and the rest of the week? So if you don't do these, if you don't know what they are and you don't regularly write to-do lists and weekly plans, which sounds really cliche, right? Then you're not going to be able to make those decisions. So it's in terms of leadership and developing skills and attributes, this is right up there, top of the list. And look around you, you speak to people you know that are successful, you'll see they've got a firm handle on this stuff. All right, guys, so I'll just get you to lock in from the leadership perspective. What was the number one thing you learned from this session? What's the number one thing for you that you really need to hone in on? And if you conquer that, it may be an attribute development thing, maybe developing your financial knowledge, your time management knowledge, your relationship, marketing, whatever it is, and then using this time management stuff if you're not already doing so, which I know most of you aren't. What's it going to conservatively make you over the next 12 months? What's it going to allow you to do? Okay, I had a guy at Epiphany the other day. He saved himself a couple $100 by not using a subby to do something. And while he was doing the work on site, he realized that he could be doing something else. There was something else he was working on from a business development point of view on his business that could bring in $100,000. And he just went, now I get it. How I'm spending my time. I thought I was saving money. I'm taking time away at work, could be doing something else. So just lock that in, guys, and then right there, we'll 15 minutes. Please be back here 11:15 sharp, and we'll keep going. Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt. So, project management software. Project management, probably the most important area of your business. It's where profits are made and lost. So it makes sense that this is an area that we need to keep a very close eye on. And the 4 big issues that we have in project management are number 1, the clicker. Client communication. So the to-ing and fro-ing with the clients, and this starts even before construction will start. It starts really from the prelim stage, from the moment the client starts to get serious and you start detailing what's going to go into their contract, because this is where a lot of money can get lost. They're looking to shave money. You're changing, and you need to ensure that all that communication is recorded, as well as when you go through the contracts as well. Obviously, the communication with the client is equally important as you're running the job. The second one, variations. This is an area of lost potential really for builders. Typically there's a lot of scenarios where variations simply don't get charged. It is an area that can be improved to increase margins. Job scheduling. There's a lot of different ways guys will schedule their jobs, whether they plan them out meticulously in advance or simply run them out of their head. But that will impact on how efficient your business is, and again have a very big impact on your bottom line. And of course, as we looked at earlier, job costing, very critical component of project management, because you need to understand what's happening with your numbers versus what you've budgeted for all the way through the job. So if we look at the first one, we look at client communication and the challenges that we have with clients. They have very selective memories. Everything they ask for, as you're negotiating, you're trying to get them across the line. It's tough, you know, they need a dollar scraped here and there. And you're trying to hit their budget to enable them to go forward with this project. And after 3 or 4 months of working with them, cutting corners, taking a dollar out here and there, giving them alternatives to get the price down, they sign the contract. All of a sudden, they want the best of the best. They expect nothing but the best from you. They don't want to compromise on anything at all. And they tend to forget things that they may previously have agreed to. So it's very important that we have everything recorded. As a result of that, do you end up spending hours searching through Outlook or Gmail because you know what they said? You know what the wife may have replied to in an email, but you just don't have it structured anywhere. So you're trawling through your deleted items, just trying to find that email that clarifies that, no, I did offer you the NEF, and you decided to stick with the Miele because it was $300 more. You know that. The client doesn't remember it, so it's down to you to go through all your records and try and find that. And there's a lot of wasted time and energy involved in doing that. And the other thing is getting these decisions from the client. Now, a lot of these clients, they may have built before, but they're not au fait with the build process. For you, it just comes naturally. You know everything that needs to be done. You know the order it needs to be done in. But when you're working on the frame, you need to know the roof colour. You need to get that roof ordered. Yet the client is down choosing dishwashers because they think you're going to get up on the roof at the end of the job and paint it. To them, it's simply not an important decision. So again, you need things in place that are very structured that can make sure that you're getting the information from your client as and when you need it. Because the bottom line, if you don't, it always falls down to you. It always becomes your problem. Now, the other challenge that you face that it doesn't come into any menu at all is that whole relationship management with the client. And I'm not just talking about the client, I'm talking about the clients. I mean, you may find yourself as an unpaid marriage guidance counsellor on the way through the job. It's a very stressful process for the clients, and there'll be ups and downs, and a lot of the time you find yourself in the middle of that. One way around that is to make sure that you communicate right from the very beginning with both the husband and the wife individually. If you find yourself communicating with maybe the leader in the relationship, you could find yourself getting played off. So very important to establish contact for both parties from the outset and always communicate with both parties. If you try and introduce that system halfway through, it could blow up in your face. So just make it a company process that you always communicate with all parties involved. Because the result is that you can get played, and that's the oldest negotiating trick in the book, which clients do use, and that will be to play the builder to actually get something for nothing or at a reduced price. And that brings us on to the second big issue, which is getting paid for variations. So there's common instances, reasons why you don't get paid. The first one is simply, I mean, it can be too hard, or you don't have confirmation from the client in writing. Now, clients are becoming more and more switched on. They're becoming more aware of their legal rights all the time. And the way the law stands at the moment, if you don't get any variation in writing, regardless of if there's a dollar charge or not, the client can deduct the value to rectify the work at the end of the contract. They can legally deduct that amount of money and short pay you at the end. So don't leave yourself exposed in any way. It has to be second nature for your team to be recording any variation from the contract position. A lot of guys say to me it's simply not worth the paperwork. They're out on site, they're very busy, they want a door moved, it's just easier just to do it. You know, they're not even worried about charging for it because by the time they do all the paperwork, they put the margin on, it's simply not worth the ag. They'd rather just get their head down and do it. But again, that takes us back to the first problem. A deduction can be made for rectification, but also it's lost opportunity. There's a big problem with builders typically when it comes to variation. The problem is always in the mind of the seller, not the buyer. And what you guys might look at as being a couple of $100 work, the client could be willing to pay a lot more because they just want it moved. Now it becomes a bind for you because yes, a couple of $100, you know, it's not worth the ag. It doesn't help you in any way. It might just slow the job down. But that represents an opportunity. And as long as you can do it right and do it happily, the clients are generally happy as well and they will pay. And this is an opportunity to actually build your margins up. Another reason for losing money on variations is when the specifications aren't detailed enough. And again, builders seem to take the hit on this, even if they didn't do the documentation themselves. If the architect produces the specifications, or even if the clients just submitted them to the builder. If the builder goes to contract, the common consensus is it's the builder's fault all the time. He should have checked it. So you're always taking the hit. It's a high risk game, and it's just another area where builders are losing money. So if I was to ask you, thinking about those different areas, how much do you think roughly you could be losing on each job? Anyone want to offer a rough idea of what they take a stab? Anyone with zero? Yeah. Sorry? 20%. 20%. Typically, yeah, when we work with guys, they might pull out $1,000 as just a ballpark figure. But when we start working with them and getting them to record site orders and everything that's costing them money and hitting their bottom line, that figure is normally 8.5 times higher than they thought it was going to be. It's a real area of both opportunity but risk mitigation. So the true cost of not getting paid, the additional site orders that you produce are coming straight off your bottom line. And this is what Kurt alluded to just in his last presentation, that $100. Now if you're working on a 20% markup, which is 16% margin, that $100 is going to take you $666 in sales to recoup at a gross margin. If you take a step lower and look at the net margin, and say you're only producing 1% net margin at the moment, you're looking at $10,000 to recoup that $100. So these are big numbers, and this is where if you can focus on the small amounts that may not seem worthwhile, if you can look after those, then the larger numbers will start taking care of themselves. So, third issue, scheduling the job. Again, if we can just get a quick show of hands here. Who is currently scheduling the jobs in their head? Don't use any other software, they just do it in their head. Use it sequentially, okay? The main problem with doing it that way is there is a limited amount of jobs that you'll be able to cope with. There will be a glass ceiling that you hit. You're very experienced, you know what's coming. You know what's coming next. You wouldn't be able to tell me what's going to happen on the 3rd of June, but you do know the whole sequence of events that are coming up. But there's normally a point, and it's 2 to 3, 4 to 5, it varies with different people. There is a point where you cannot fit any more in your head and carry that information around. How about a calendar, something like Outlook? Is anyone using just a simple calendar to schedule their jobs? No? We do come across guys that will just use a very simple calendar system. The issue with that is when the job pushes out for a rain delay, you have to update every single activity. So again, it's very time consuming. Excel, is anyone using Excel? Yep, okay. See it up there, 98% of spreadsheets contain errors. So that's a bit of a risk. And finally, does anyone use Microsoft Project? Microsoft Project's a fantastic piece of software. Very, very advanced, but the problem with Project, as in any generic software, it isn't completely suited for the construction industry, especially custom builders. And of the guys that I generally speak to that use Project, 80% of them tell me they stop using it after lockup. And that's because the job ceases to become sequential and all hell breaks loose. And then they start thinking, well, why am I doing this? Why am I inputting all this information? I'm not getting anything back from the software. Potentially they get a nice report at the end of the job and they can see maybe where they've lost some time. But when you're fighting fires, it simply doesn't seem worthwhile. And this is why 80% of them, they might start off with good intentions, but it does fall by the by. Now this was a pretty clever guy, and he knew that we shouldn't carry information around in our head. We need our minds freed for thinking, and again, that was a good point that Kurt made previously. When the guy took himself out of the business, he started to think of bigger and better opportunities. So ensure you get things written down or certainly systemized so they can operate without you and then allow you to think. And the fourth component, of course, as we covered earlier, is job costing. And the reason job costing is so important, just to reiterate, it's covering your sales, so it's how you indicate pricing. It's covering your estimating, so you're constantly learning, constantly revising, updating your estimating, even your scheduling. You'll be surprised where certain activities might be blowing out that we don't always recall when we deal with them on a week-to-week basis. But when we sit back and analyse, we can see that some things might take 7 days and we've always thought they took 5. And then finally, the accounts as well. It has a big impact on the accounts. So we've covered that. So looking at the different ways of covering job costing. Now, presuming that you may be doing some job costing at the moment, how many people are recording their jobs in Excel? Comparing budget to the actuals in Excel and using their estimating software. So they're producing an estimate and then recording it. Okay. And accounting software, maybe something like MyOb, yep. And then not running job costing at all, not recording the actuals versus the budget. Well, that's great news, because that's the most important thing. So as long as everyone's doing something, that is always the most important component. So we've got 4 problems here and 1 solution. And I'm not going to tell you a product, it's not a sales pitch. All I'm going to tell you is the thing you need to be looking at is construction project management software. Now, I've underlined construction because, again, the generic software just simply doesn't address all the needs of a custom builder. But if you go out and specifically look for construction project management software, it will cover those 4 areas where money is getting hemorrhaged in your business. Now, the end result, if you implement this software, you'll end up with happy clients. You will reduce your selections mistakes. You will speed up your build times. What we focus on and report on does improve, and you will get more accurate estimating, which will result in less money being hemorrhaged on a job. So all those factors equal more profit. And the target here, I'm not sure if I might have missed Kurt's presentation where we talked about, did we cover margin, Kurt, at the target margin that you're achieving with your builders?
I haven't yet, no.
Okay. Well, you don't mind if I let the cat out the bag? Where the builders Kurt works with achieved 27% margin. And I always look around the room because I know when Kurt brings this up, people are scratching their heads, you know, can't be done, you know, in my business. You know, the margins are just too tight. I'd go out of business if I worked on 27% margin. But the thing is, there isn't just one way to achieve this margin, and it is achievable. And I have seen it being done with Kurt's clients over and over again. And I'm going to give you just a little exercise here, an example of how this one area can contribute to hitting that goal and getting your margin up from where it currently is to that 27%. So if we just take a typical contract, an average contract value, 500,000, and then we look at a typical builder, maybe doing 5 builds a year. And the variations not being charged, and again, this is from research, this is from information coming back to us. Typically, they believe it to be $1,000 on a job. Reality is closer to 8,500. And the admin expenses, and this is where Kurt was going through the P&L, and isolating your fixed costs, and then working that out as an expense per week. And if we look at that, and then the lost margin on a job. Now that's an interesting one because a lot of time when I speak to builders and I say about what you're estimating the job at, your potential margin, and what you're actually realising, what you're achieving. And the most common answer I get is, well, I put 20% on a job, but I'm happy if I clear 15 at the end of it. And there lies one of the most common mistakes, first of all, in the mix-up of markup and margin, because what he's done is put 20% markup on a job, and then he's looked at the gross or the net profit on the turnover of the job and assumed that he's lost money when really he's now looking at margin. So that 20% markup was really 16.6% margin. So the fact that he only achieved 15 means he's only lost 1.6 and not the 5% that he thinks he may have lost. So it's not quite as dramatic or as bad, but there's still 1.6% that's going adrift there. So if we take this typical job and it's 500,000, we're looking, the variation's not charged typically on a job, 8,500. And then we're looking at the expenses per week being $500 per week. So again, even a company doing small homes, 300,000-400,000, when they implement scheduling software properly and start running it, we've seen an absolute minimum of 2 weeks saved on the build time. We even had a builder recently that was doing investment homes in 90 days, and they shaved a couple of weeks off of that. They were amazed. When you're doing custom homes and they're far more complex, running longer, you're going to save even more time. But let's keep it conservative. We're looking at $500 and we're assuming 2 weeks can be saved. And then we're looking at the lost margin on the variations, because as well as the 8.5 grand that we forked out from our bottom line, we've also foregone the opportunity to make margin on those variations. And a 20% margin on those variations comes out at another couple of $1,000. So all in all, very easily in cold blood, we've just lost $11,624 on that job, which is 2.3%. These are all areas that can very easily be addressed, and you can see that makes a dramatic impact on our bottom line, not the gross, the bottom line. Now, if you multiply that over a year where he's doing 5 builds, that's $58,000 that he's just generated by implementing these strategies. And again, that takes us back to our target. It brings us closer to our 20% margin, which has to be the ultimate goal for a business, is to set a target of the margin you want to get to and then work your strategies to help you get there. So, if this is of interest to you and you would like to find out more about project management software, my company, Acris Services, we do provide a number of different software, but project management is something that I couldn't stand up here and tell you that this particular product is a good fit for your business. It's very specific on the type of business that you are. So if this is something you're interested in implementing, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and then guide you in the right direction for the type of business and the type of work you're doing. You'll see there's a request for more information sheet on your desk here. There is a checkbox for project management software, so by all means check that box and just forward that on to me and I'll get back to you. Are there any questions at all on project management? No? Okay, in the case so for subcontractors, this probably isn't ideal. It's a little bit too complex, and because the time span of your job is even shorter, it simply doesn't become worthwhile, the amount of work that you're putting in. What type of work are you doing? You're right, okay, and the time that you're on site? Yeah, 3 or 4. Okay. There is a good bit of software that I came across from a company down in Victoria called WebExact, which is WEBXACT. They're very closely tied in with the master builders down in Victoria, and they are very Victoria-centric. But their software allows you to do a full takeoff and that takeoff will then integrate with the estimate. So you can produce your estimate, and that estimate links to a schedule. So that might be a good solution, I think, for a subcontractor, very quick and easy to use. Okay. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Integration with MYOB for and estimating programs as well, so you can actually get a report on job costs and your budget and how you're going with the job.
Yep.
Do these programs that you're talking about, and I'll probably talk to you later about it, but obviously we use MYOB as probably a lot of other people do, or QuickBooks. Integration with that and account numbers and codes and all that, in my mind, is really the way to go.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm uneducated in that field, but
Yeah, integration in construction has been a real challenge. I think everyone's been looking for the holy grail, the software that does cover everything from sales and marketing right through estimating, project management and onto accounting. We certainly set out and spent 5 years looking for that. What we concluded is whatever was on the market wasn't good enough. We got certain products that claim to do it all, but they tend to have one good component, maybe a good estimating side, and then everything else is just bolted on. And I think the biggest challenge we've got in Australia is the accounting side, because the best project management software typically comes out of the US. They've got the population, the resources to pile into it. So we're always going to be limited as to what we can develop here. So we concluded that the only way forward really was going to be, like you say, through integration. And that's going to happen through what's known as API. An API is a method of connecting software, cloud-based software. It can be done quickly, easily and cheaply, and it's becoming more and more popular. And I think over the next 12 months you're going to hear a lot more about that. Now the big problem with MYOB is up until recently it wasn't cloud-based, and I understand they've now gone cloud-based, but I don't know if they've opened up their API at all. The best accounting software on the market, bar none, is Xero at the moment. And that the reason they've been so successful is they are looking to integrate with everything out there. So they're a very easy accounting software to integrate with, but that's not to say the other software is in that position either yet. And construction project management software is not quite at that point yet. But it will be over the next 12 months, I believe, and at that point it will be very easy to match it up with Xero or MYOB if they do the same thing, and even CRMs to then bring this whole seamless experience through. So we've waited a long time, but I think we can see it coming now. It's all getting close. Okay, if there's no more questions then I'll hand back to Kurt.